The grand audience chamber of the celestial ascendancy was a symphony of light and impossible architecture. It was here, before the assembled luminaries of 100 star-faring species, that the Princess of the Valkyrie made her proclamation. Her form was elegant, a bipedal figure of silver-blue skin and eyes that held the depth of nebulas. Her voice, translated seamlessly by the ambient field, was a melody of chilling clarity. Ambassador of Earth, she spoke, and a title hung in the air. The human in question stood apart from the opulent delegations. His simple gray envoy's suit, a stark contrast to the radiant silks and holographic mantles around him. He was a man of quiet bearing, his name a simple marker in the diplomatic logs. He met her gaze, steady. The princess continued, her words resonating through the chamber's perfect acoustics. For cycles, our empires have danced at the brink of misunderstanding. Your human resilience is intriguing. Your species' chaotic spirit holds a warmth mine has forgotten. To weave our futures together, to cement an alliance unbreakable, I offer the most sacred bond of my people. She paused, and the silence became a tangible thing. Do you desire me as your wife, human? A ripple, not of sound but of sheer psychic astonishment, moved through the non-human observers. The Valkyrie were ancient, their biological and social structures a mystery. This was unprecedented. The human ambassador did not flinch. He had studied their indirect, high-context communications for years. This was not a romantic proposal. It was a geopolitical ultimatum wrapped in a cultural sacrament. To refuse would be a catastrophic insult, dooming diplomatic relations for centuries. To accept blindly would surrender human autonomy to an alien paradigm. The weight of worlds pressed on his shoulders. He took a single breath, his mind racing through scenarios, cultural analyses, and the simple, terrifying humanity of the moment. Then he replied, his voice firm and clear in the vast space. Yes. The single word triggered a cascade. The princess inclined her head, a gesture of profound finality. The alliance was sealed. The human was no longer just an ambassador. He was the consort. His quarters were relocated to the spire of the royal lineage, rooms of breathtaking beauty and profound isolation. The princess was courteous but distant. Their interactions were formal, a series of choreographed public appearances and stilted private dinners. She spoke of statcraft, of resource allocations, of the subtle music of stellar radiation. She did not speak of feeling. He learned her people expressed affiliation through the seamless synchronization of purpose, not through physical touch or intimate confession. A marriage was a merger of legacies, not of hearts. He felt like a specimen in a gilded cage, a biological token of an agreement. Earth's government was ecstatic. Trade flourished. Technological transfers began. Humanity was leapfrogging ahead. He had done his duty spectacularly. And he was profoundly lonely. He began his own form of diplomacy. He requested ingredients from Earth. In the pristine, nutrient-efficient gastronomy unit of their shared spire, he began to cook. Not the optimized pastes of the Valkyrie, but human food. He baked bread, the yeast scent alien and warm in the sterile air. One evening, he presented her with a simple dish. Pasta, with a sauce of tomatoes and basil. She observed it as if it were an artifact. This is inefficient, she noted, but her nostrils flared, a tiny, almost invisible humanoid gesture. It is not for efficiency, he said. It is for shared experience. The labor is part of the offering. She ate. The act was careful. Then she stopped, her fork hovering. The flavor combinations. They conflict, yet resolve. It is complex. That is the point, he smiled, his first genuine smile in months. Another time, he played music for her. Not the complex tonal mathematics of Valkyrie harmonies, but a simple old blues recording. The ache of the guitar, the gravel in the singer's voice. She listened, motionless, for the full duration. "The audio conveys structured sorrow," she stated. "Why create art from pain?" "To show we are not alone in feeling it," he replied. "To make beauty from ache is a very human defiance." She said nothing, but the next day, a strange crystalline instrument appeared in their living space. She played a sequence of notes that were not a song, but a pattern that somehow mirrored the blues scale's melancholy. Slowly, glacially, a bridge was built. He learned to see the affection in how she ordered the light drones to mimic Earth's sunrise for him. She began asking questions. "Explain the concept of home as it pertains to a memory, not a location. Why does your species value imperfection in creative endeavors?" Then came the crisis. A renegade faction from a rival hegemony, the Cathar, opposed to the human Valkyrie alliance, launched a stealth attack. It was not on a fleet, but on the spire itself. Their goal was decapitation. To kill the princess and her human consort, to shatter the bond in the most visceral way. Sirens wailed, a sound the ambassador had never heard in the serene ascendancy. The royal guards, sleek and deadly, moved to secure the princess. Energy bolts scorched the opaline walls. Chaos, violent and sharp, invaded the perfect order. The ambassador acted not on diplomatic training, but on a deeper instinct. He grabbed the princess's hand, his touch the first truly urgent contact between them. "This way," he said, pulling her not toward the fortified safe room, but to a secondary service conduit he had idly mapped during his wanderings. "The protocol dictates." She started. "The protocol is what they expect," he interrupted, his voice leaving no room for debate, that they moved through the narrow, utilitarian passages. He placed himself between her and every junction, his body a willing shield. When a Cathar raider, clad in jagged armor, rounded a corner, the ambassador did not freeze. He threw a maintenance canister, not as a weapon, but as a distraction, and shoved the princess into an alcove, covering her with his own form. The raider was dispatched a moment later by pursuing guards, but in that instant the choice was made. He would die for her. In the aftermath, secure in a command bunker, the silence returned. The princess looked at him, her nebula eyes wide. His clothes were smudged with conduit dust, his heart still pounding. The formal distance was gone, burned away by danger. "You deviated from all protective protocols," she said. "You used yourself as a barrier. The probability of your termination was 87%. Why?" He caught his breath. "Because you are my wife." The word hung between them, but now it was filled with the scent of baking bread, the sound of blues, the shared silence of understanding, and the violence of a choice. "I did not understand the bond you were offering," she said, her voice softer than he had ever heard it. "I saw a political union, a logical alignment. You accepted my proposal, yet you built something in the space between the words. You built a bridge from stories, from sustenance, from sacrifice. Your yes was not an acceptance of my terms. It was a counter-proposal." She stepped closer. She raised a hand, her long silver fingers hesitating, then touching his cheek. It was a Valkyrie gesture of profound connection, one he had only read about. It meant, "I see your core. When I asked if you desired me as your wife," she whispered, "I spoke of dynasties. You heard a person. When you said yes, you answered for an alliance. But you were speaking to me." He placed his hand over hers. "Maybe," he said, "my yes was for both. And maybe your question meant more than you knew." The crisis had passed. The alliance was stronger, tested by fire. In the grand chamber weeks later, they stood together again. The same figures were assembled. The princess addressed the crowd, speaking of unity and resilience. Then she turned to him, and before the galaxy, she repeated the question, but this time her voice was only for him, amplified by the silence. "Human, do you desire me as your wife?" He looked at her, seeing no longer just a princess of an alien empire, but the being who had learned to appreciate imperfect sauce, who had tried to mirror a blues song, whose safety had become more important to him than his own. He saw the bridge they had built, stone by stone, across the stars. His smile was gentle, certain. He gave the same answer, but now it was a universe deeper. "Yes,